All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another discussion with Kofi and Richard. Today, this was something that sort of crossed my mind. Kofi, I've been trying to listen to some of the smart people out there. And it dawned on me. I mean, I think I've asked this question before of myself mostly. But I think I went out as well to gather some information. But today I wanted to talk a little bit and get Kofi's expert advice, of course, because this is my successful brother. I try to follow his path. But I wanted to talk about having a plan, Kofi. Our lives are such a complex thing, right? We
Mhm.
you know we start out in our youth, we get some education, hopefully, some of us. We try to get a job, we try to raise a family, we try to maybe sometimes build a legacy if we're lucky. But somehow or the other, it seems as though we wing it. I know we generally may find successful people in our society and we emulate what they do and we follow. Some of it is not rocket science, I get that, but I still am a bit shocked that I don't have a detailed enough plan, Kofi, for my life. And I'm also shocked that a lot of people don't, and yet, we're creating lives. And so I wanted to, maybe ask the question and maybe get some people's feedback as well. Maybe some people out there do have an excellent plan, but why don't we have a plan? Maybe is the first question, and then the second one is should we, and then what should that plan entail? And how do we go about making one? So I'll let you lead me off, Kofi, and
Yeah,
give me
this
good
this is going to be a
guidance.
it's a good topic because I think that the issue is so there's probably two camps, right? One camp is I live my life as I see fit. Maybe that's the plan to not have a plan, right? Whatever comes, I roll with the punches, and hey, there are some people are laissez-faire, right? They don't feel the need to plan and they just go right like the wind. I'm not against that. Then there's the other camp which feels the need to have a plan. And but the question becomes, and I think maybe the more pertinent question is how detailed is the plan? Right. So some people say I have a plan. Yeah, um, I want to be somebody when I grow up, right? And you don't often meet somebody who says they haven't thought about that question, right? Or that they're going to do something, right? Everybody has aspirations, as it were, regardless of what they might be, right? So yes, Kamala, no judging, right? No judging. So I'm saying that the what is the extent of the plan? I think is maybe a big question. Some people just have a basic sort of, hey, I want to do this with my life. I want to do that with my life, but I'm not really investing and putting this down in a plan, and writing it up. And then there are those who are very deliberate, very detail oriented about what that plan is going to be, and they work on it, right? They write it down, they put it on calendars, they come up with specific tasks every day to sort of advance the plan. So you take a pick, Rich. What do you call a plan? Right? What are we calling a plan? Because your plan might be different from my plan, which might be different from somebody else's plan. Like, what is a plan and what is it supposed to look like? I think is maybe the question. If we're talking about having a plan for our lives.
So in general, I would think that like any plan is a plan, right? Planning, as we know, is sort of an iterative process, right? You do
Mhm.
something, you write something down, you pursue it, you revise it as you go. People will give you advice. You may meet somebody that may give you some good guidance and say, no, don't do that, do this instead. And so I would say a plan is anything that you've written down that you want to create in your life that you look at from time to time and you do some assessment of are you on track or not. And that could be from as simple as planning your financial life, planning your career, right? What do you want to do? It could be planning your parenting. It could be planning for your year, right? What are you going to do with your time? When are you going to take vacations? What's your financial goals for the year? It could be a number of things, right? But I think a plan should generally be something, in my mind, again, this is my own view, is something that when I sit in my quiet moments and I think about how I spend my 24 hours in the day, I can get a sense of, am I moving towards what I want, or not? And therefore, do I need to adjust my behaviors and my actions, right? Because they say if you don't know where you're going, any destination is fine, right? But
Yeah.
if you're off path, right, then you can course correct. But if you never set out the destination, if you never set out sort of a goal and a direction that you want to head into, I think you're just sort of just sailing through life, right? And so, your neighbor quarreling on next door might be of importance to you, as well as, going to class, or, watching Young and the Restless if it still shows. Anything will work, right? But if I know that, okay, today I have to wake up, or I'm generally working towards getting my degree, or being better at my job, or being a better parent, then I've got things to focus on, right, at the beginning of the day. Otherwise, I'm just sort of sailing through the day, right?
Yeah.
So that's my view of why I think I need a plan and be better at planning. And then one of the other things I'll say, Kofi, is that a lot of what we're doing in life as we get older doesn't just involve us, right? It involves everybody else. And so if we have people that play a role in our plan, one, they should participate in in building the plan, right? Because that's necessary. We don't want to plan for other people's lives without
Right.
telling them what we
Without
have
telling
for
them.
them. Yeah,
Exactly.
I may be guilty of some of that, but but it's necessary, right? That we all sit down and come up with a plan, right? And we agree on the plan, and we agree on what the roles are that we're going to play as we execute this plan, right? And I'm going to go out on a limb here, Kofi. I think those people that are brave enough to plan their lives are probably happier with the output and the results they create versus those that
Maybe they're more frustrated too. I don't know. I have to get the data on that. I don't know. Um, I can admit, I think I can admit that I feel like even for my own life, if I use my life as an example, a plan was always important, and I think what might be misunderstood as part of this conversation is that people think there has to always be sort of a grand plan, and I think you mentioned it, plans can change, right? Plans can change, and that's okay, right? I mean, you'd admit, right? So you can change the plan, right? But it's good to have a plan. I always remember when I was growing up, my mother is a stickler for having like a plan for your life. And she never liked the idea of people sitting
It's a wise woman
and,
right there.
right, sitting and doing nothing. And meaning that you're just sort of floating through and you're not doing anything. So the one thing she would always say to us was make sure you do something until you find the something you want to do, right? So if you don't know what you want to do, just do something until you find out something that you want to do. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that, right? Because it's okay to make that the plan, right? That I'm going to do this in the meantime as I search other options and work things out and advance on the plan. And I think that's important. I think what's also important in the plan is this sort of sensitivity to how information is changing and how circumstances are changing, right? Because, like you said, you might have a big goal in mind, but you want to be sensitive and open to the fact that there might be seasons, right? There might be things that you want to take advantage of. There might be things you want to move away from. There might be things that you don't want to do too early in life, right? Because it could offset the rest of the plan that you're looking to do. So I think that there has to be some flexibility in the plan, in terms of how you go about achieving the plan, right? And you have to sort of, and I don't have a good, it's sort of like an intuition. You have to be able to sense that, all right, I'm finished with this sort of area and season of my life, and I'm advancing to this next season. Here's the plan for this sort of new season, right? This new area as I grow. um, Even though you might have a big framework, without some specificity, you sort of know where you want to go, and then you sort of narrow it, as you go. That's been my approach. I know some people plan a lot more detail than that from the very beginning, but mine has always been, here's the general direction that I want to head in, right? So I'm headed north and I know the destination. I actually know the destination, right? Know where I want to be. But I'm allowing sort of my intuition and the information I'm receiving to sort of help me drive, along that path, right? If I were to use the analogy, I know if I have to take a detour, that's okay. But the detour is planned. I don't know if you've ever been doing a long drive, and then you ask Google to say, "Hey, the kids need to eat. Can you find me a Chick-fil-A on my path?" And it looks like a detour, right? It looks like a major detour because Google says there's a Chick-fil-A 16 miles, right, from where you're going, and then all of a sudden, you're like, yeah, yeah, it's going to take 20 minutes out of this trip. But it's important to take that detour because you can't really complete the trip with a car of people that are hungry and complaining, right? And so, I think if you don't understand that, you can get very frustrated, because you feel like you have to stay on the path, right? But sometimes detours, a little pull off, refueling, resting, and so on is important. And I think that's what I'm saying. I think sometimes you don't have that in the plan, but you have to make room for those kinds of things in your plan, right? So to me, big goals are important, but flexibility and sensitivity, right, in understanding circumstances, are all important in executing the plan. What do you say, wise man?
So, no, no, I certainly agree with that. I think there is a healthy middle ground, right? We're sometimes worried about over planning. We're sometimes worried that, um, if we plan for something and it doesn't happen, then we want to avoid that disappointment.
Mhm.
Um, we're sometimes worried that we spend too much time planning and not enough time doing. Um, but I also know that, um, from experience, that, as you said, right, there's a balance between sort of planning and then making adjustments in the plan. And so any plan that you make, even if you were to make a plan, to build a house, right, as you know, as an engineer, you can make changes to that plan as you go, right? You may decide that you put something differently, or you move a wall somewhere, or hopefully not too many major changes.
Yeah, yeah,
But
correct.
I think, and then sometimes I think we feel like, maybe it's too late to plan because we're too old, right? And so we want to give up on the idea of planning. It's too late, right? Um, and so I think you can start at any point in time, Kofi. I think at any point in your life you could sit down, like anything else, right? Whether you want to plan for financial success, you talked about the education in the past, right? You go wake up today, go do your GED, all right, or your high school
Hmm.
education, go to college, and in 6 years you have a degree, right? You're qualified. And so I think you can plan for anything, but what I also like about the idea of planning is the fact that that's how you're supposed to dream, right? um because if we for most of us, we are sort of, we're following the general population, right? And so
Hmm.
if we grow up in a very nice affluent society, then great, right? We got good examples, a lot of highly educated people, right? We're hanging around the elites. Maybe we're okay, right? But if you grow up in an environment where you struggle to see good examples, um, and then I think it's a little bit different, right? Because planning has a little bit of a dreaming component of it, right? Let me plan in a dream state, right? If I can imagine my life to be its best version, what would it look like, right? Let me write some of that stuff down, and then go out and see that, to some extent you got to have some belief, right, and some hope, and you go out and you execute on it. But but I think, as you highlighted, right, you can change a plan at any point in time. But I think you should start. Everybody, all of us, should
Yeah.
start planning, right? So we can have our own plans. So I mean, I have a plan for some things that I want to do, right? I plan for my reading, I plan for my writing, but then I plan for things like, how do I want to spend time with my kids. Um, I've got to do better with my financial plans. Those aren't as good as they should be, which is disappointing as an accountant. But I think you could plan for anything, right? We could plan for what we do with ETC. We could plan for what we do with our friends or organizations that we're part of. We can plan. We can all have a plan for every year of our life, and I think we should start. No matter how basic it is, I think we should start planning,
So
all of us.
before you go, Lisa Mohammed, it is. I think we know Lisa, right?
Sounds like
Uh,
sounds like a familiar person.
our dear friend Lisa mentioned she said Richard Bola, the life book is a great tool. So maybe you should take a minute to talk about the life book. Maybe if people are interested in the life book, maybe they should contact you because it seems like Lisa's pretty happy with this idea of the life book.
Yeah, I generally don't like to plug other people's thing, but I'm a big fan of the live book. The live book is this tool that I used um, a couple years back. It might have been the beginning of 2019, but
Hmm.
essentially the live book is just a process. It's available online, so you go online and you pay for it, and they'll give you some good guidance. Um, and essentially you lay out 12 areas of your life, things that include your relationship, your parenting, your emotional health, your your financial goals, your career goals, um, your spiritual health, all a bunch of different areas in your life, right? As much as you can, as much as I think it covers just about everything, right? Your social life and everything else, and you go through, and for every area um, you have premises, which is your beliefs for that specific area, and then you've got your vision. What do you want to achieve? So if I were to think about my health and fitness, what are my beliefs about my health and fitness? Am I just going to deteriorate as I get older? My bones are going to start to creak. My muscles are going to get less and less.
Sure
Or do I
feels that way.
believe, right, right? Or do I challenge those beliefs and establish some new beliefs? What's the vision that I want? And so you set out that vision, and then you identify the reasons why achieving that vision is important, right? So
Yeah.
there's something powerful about the why, right? Because a lot of times these things can be drilled down into layers, right? Because if you ask somebody, why do you want to be X? Um, they'll tell you, I think that's Zario. They'll tell
Oh,
you that
I thought it was Kamla.
um, they'll tell you that that, oh, why do you want to make a lot of money? They'll be like, oh, so I want to be rich, but why do you want to be rich? Well, oh, so that I could do X, right? And really truly sometimes it boils down to things that aren't necessarily things that require money, and so it forces you to think differently. But when
Yeah.
you have when you identify your beliefs around any area of your life, when you establish a vision for it, and when you've justified why that vision is important, I think it's much more compelling, right, to wake up and pursue that goal, right? And then, of course, the last part of that is that you come up with a strategy. And so you think about the things that you can do on a daily basis to achieve those goals. So I'm a big fan of the live book as well. I know Lisa's done it, and so she seems like she's enjoying it. But like I said, Kofi, I think any kind of plan, any kind of forethought about what do you want to do with your life, I think goes a long way.
Yeah,
Uh, and,
I
and and
agree.
and and we may do it, like I've spoken to a couple of friends and they said, well, I had a general idea in my head, and I think we most of us probably do. But there's something about writing it down and really thinking hard about what you want to do with your life. And I think if there aren't too many things to me that are as complex as this life that we live, right?
Yeah,
Um, and if anything we should plan for is how do we want to live our lives, right? And so I think if we start, however small, I believe it can go a long way. So I'm encouraging everybody to have a plan. I'm going to start working on mine, by the way, make it a little bit better.
that's that's good. Thanks, Rich. That's inspiring. Everybody heard it. Let's get a life plan, man. Let's get a plan. And the life book is one tool, but making sure we write the goal down, write the vision down, they say, is always important. There's a very important process from here to the process of the hand to penning it, and getting it out there, and then being able to look at it and watch it just come to realization. So very powerful stuff, Rich. Hey, thanks for being so passionate about this. I hope that those who are watching would definitely benefit from this, and that we all could come up with a good plan for our lives and make it as detailed and as useful and flexible as we can be. But get a plan.
Yes.
All
All
right.
right. And if anybody's got any good comments to share about their plans, feel free to, because I'm always looking for good guidance. Maybe there's a there's a good book or something that somebody's read that gives some tips. So feel free to drop your comments in there. And yeah, thanks for joining the discussion.
All right, guys. Thanks for expanding the conversation. Talk to you guys later.
Take care. Bye,
Bye.
everybody.